Say hi, Itay.
Hello, everyone. What's going on?
He's also an old friend of MediaPost. Many people from Warner Music have come to us over the years through Itay, an old friend. So, first of all, if we ask you the favorite band question, do you get into trouble?
Yeah, I can't.
Okay, you can't. But tell us some. So first, let's talk about the unique challenge for Warner Music is that you have many sources of inputs, and you're managing multiple labels, but also many artists. Name drop a few of the major artists that are under your purview, but also tell us about the unique challenge that you have with all of that enormous fan base.
Yeah, absolutely. So Warner Music, music company, oversees a range of record labels as well as technology and content companies with over 1,500 artists and brands. Bruno Mars, Grateful Dead, Blake Shelton, Coldplay, Janelle Monáe, Green Day, etc. And the range is baby bands, which we develop into superstars or each artist, whatever their tier is. We sign them, produce the music, develop their career and brand, and
that's our remote.
Yeah.
That's our remote coming in right now.
Perfect. And distribute and market the recorded music. Artist Services, the division I'm a part of, is basically an internal digital agency. We build and manage hundreds of websites. We design and produce merchandise, sell it on tours, sell it in e-commerce stores, and the audience team, of course, that oversees all the marketing technology with the different channels, the databases. We have a campaign strategy team and consumer insights team as well. The product team, which is the team I'm in charge of, oversees product streams of data APIs, email automation, web, advertising technology, mobile, and social, and how all of these come together. There's over 1,500 artists, thus thousands of sources to manage. So that's part of the challenge. How do you manage that? How do you store the data in a way where you can use it locally? What about shared data? I mean, a fan is a fan. It could be a fan of multiple artists, purchaser of multiple stores. How do we look at that? Of course, approvals of content and communications, QA of everything going out, and compliance, all that.
You're an extreme example of what a lot of people experience. You have so many sources of data and content. You've got fans that are dispersed across so many different artists, so many different labels, coming into you from all the different ways in which they interact with all of these sources. And that's one of the things that we want to talk about today, is those multiple sources and how, in particular, how you're funneling them and using them via email, which is one of the most valuable ways to stay in constant contact with them.
Yeah. We still tie a lot of it back to email from any acquisition source as much as we can. We're definitely onboarded more channels. So the team used to be just email, and now it's like multiple channels where it's SMS, bots, obviously web browser notifications, all the other communications that are available out there.
And I think it's fair to say that your organization represents what I think for many people will be the future of email for them, is the ways in which email then becomes part of this larger person-to-person communication.
It feeds, the data feeds from the sources into the email, and the email acquisition points also feed into other channels, absolutely.
So let's dig into a good example, which is the bot. So explain to us this one key new program for customer acquisition and how it works. And I think we can ask for audience participation in this one.
Yeah, everybody, if you want to pick up your phones, browser, type into your browser m.me/skillet. S-K-I-L-L-E-T.
M as in Mary, .me/skillet, as in the pan.
You'll get a prompt to open Facebook Messenger. These are, by the way, messenger bots, which are a bit different than the customer service bots, websites bot that Bethany was talking about, although we're thinking in that direction as well. They right now involve different things and have different goals.
So walk us through the experience.
Yeah, absolutely. For country lovers, you can also do m.me/Blake Shelton. We have that there too, but so it's kind of like similar experience. Do we have the slides? Perfect. All right, so
you can see it right here. Sorry.
Perfect. So you got get started, and then the first thing you get is a prompt. Hey, thanks for joining the messenger. What do you want to do? Do you want to know when music is available? Great. If you click no thanks, then that's it. If you click sounds great, then the next slide comes up. Great, we'll keep you posted. And then, you could add some polls. Have you seen Skeleton concerts? How many times? You can answer. Thanks for letting us know. What about some other questions? How do you listen to music? All this stuff gets fed back to the database, right? So there's API calls every time you add. Right now, it's not connected to email. Once you subscribe, all of this is going to be connected to your profile. But sometimes the email is further up the funnel, which I'll talk about in a sec. And then you're subscribed, now it's all additional information we're getting, additional data. Music consumption, for example, is a very big data point we're looking to
How often are you able to,
collect.
once somebody's logging into the bot, how often are you able, what share of users are you able to tie back to an existing
Yeah, that's a good
file?
point. I mean, the conversion rate is not bad. It could be 10 to 50. It really depends on the flow and how we're driving them there. We're lucky in a way that, we have fans just talk to artists on Messenger because they just want to talk to the artist, but usually the artist is not really there. Unlike SMS, by the way, which they are sometimes, but which we'll talk about. But in the bot, so we got a lot of people flocking into these Messenger bots, and the idea is to have this bot available so that it immediately puts them into the flow of getting information. Facebook, by the way, is about to start charging to reaching bot followers, but there's a certain rule set in the first 24 hours that you can engage, and especially fans if they engage directly. So if they send or you send them through an ad, right? And so if you deploy that across 100, 200, 300 Facebook pages, now you get another acquisition channel where every fan that texts in goes, that messages, goes into this acquisition funnel. And as you can see here, we continue the questions, and then there's some sort of a menu, so tour dates, how do you want to find music, videos, there's the store as well. Obviously, store also you become a purchaser, that's also a subscription. And then there's an email list. If you click it, Facebook knows your email, so it automatically fills that.
So that's the key point of conversion.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is clicking on that.
This is the subscription. This is where it has a permission. This could be put at anywhere up. We're testing where it should be in the funnel to get maximum conversions. But 10% conversion of followers, that's a pretty good number for organic.
Is there fall off at that point? Is that a choke point for users?
So no, not more than others, I'd say. But yeah, I mean, not everybody. You could, so you don't have to. You could say no thanks, and then just go back to menu and continue
Well, I think
engaging.
it's an interesting point that in conversational media, whether the bot exchange is something that people prefer to remain anonymized, or if they,
I guess so. Something we ask is, do you want to stay in touch via SMS, email, Messenger? And yeah, some people do want to stay in, like they didn't text to the bot their goal wasn't to subscribe to the list. We're trying to convert them, and it'll be great if they do. Some prefer not to, and that's also fine because they're still followers. That's still a channel. We can reach them, and even the ads for bots are converting pretty well for us. So that's good. And of course, the integration ends with a welcome email. Thanks for signing up. That comes through your email. So, yeah.
What kinds of data is this casting off for you that's unique and new and valuable?
Yeah, so obviously outside of the subscription, if they end up going to purchase, then we got the purchase data. The music consumption piece is important, so based on how they click, if they click Spotify, if they click Apple Music, Deezer, etc., we can store that and then be more personalized in further communications to them. There's all kinds of other things, like you can add some polls with specific questions and some questions about location. Location data used to be automatic, it's not anymore, so we got to actually activate that.
How popular a channel is it?
The bot?
Yeah, I mean, how much does it, ultimately, how much of an effort is this worth in terms of how many users you're actually touching with it and converting with it?
Yeah, absolutely. It can touch easily a few million fans and more as we scale. So that's pretty good, and that's a good point of entry, because if you got a few million followers, that's a pretty good point of entry to convert into email addresses. And as you scale, and if we have 1,000 artists, and you have a bot on each of those Facebook pages, then you got 1,000 new acquisition points, just like we have on their websites, as we have under sweepstakes, just like we have in the other acquisition channels for these artists.
Are you finding out, are there, does this channel and this mode of interaction also cast off a lot of unexpected data and conversations? I mean, Bethany, and I think we know this from Alexa, Bethany pointed this out, people say a lot of interesting things to their bots.
They do.
But that can actually be very valuable. I mean, the bot can learn, but also you can learn things that people are coming to expect from the conversation that you haven't anticipated.
Yeah. So, I mean, we get very interesting comments through the bot, through SMS, through our customer service for our stores, you know, because people want to talk to the artists all the time and they say very interesting things, you know, but good and bad. And, you know, but there's rules set. There's a rule set where you can, like, we don't currently, anything that's not relevant or negative, we just ignore. There is an AI element that's going to be implemented to understand more. That's what's going to be available both in SMS and the Messenger bot.
And before we leave this channel, what are the demos for this channel? Are there particular sets of audiences that this is especially strong for?
Yeah, I mean, you know, Facebook obviously has changed the demos, but Messenger is on many people's phones. And so at the end of the day, if this is a channel that people can interact with the artist, you know, then they'll do it. So it's Facebook demo and younger. But you know, that's the whole point. Like each of our channels has different demographics. It's hard to say because we have 1,500 artists, so we span our demographics all the way from, you know, 13 and above, the marketing permissions, 16 in GDP in Europe, right? And then all the way to 70 and 80, depending on the type of artist. So, you know, it's a channel, fans are there, we want to be there too and talk to them.
By the way, if any of you have logged into this, into the Messenger, do you have any questions about how it works? If any of you are experiencing it?
How long does it take to set up?
It's really quick. It's an interface. I mean, there's a few main bot companies out there. It's a user interface. Either they set it up or you set it up, and you know, you just input the assets, the links, the flow. It's really quick, and you can templatize. So that's what we do. We actually templatize it so that when we implement another one, we can just replicate it.
So let's move over to another channel, Facebook Pages, where all of the artists have most of the artists have a very heavy presence, and this has proven to be an important acquisition channel for you. So tell us how you're using them.
Yeah. So for the pages, there's a few elements. Obviously, whether it's through organic posts or ads, you can send people to the bot. So if that's implemented on all the pages, that's already a big acquisition channel for us. Other than that, we do some Facebook lead ads, which are okay. They're relevant up to a point. They're impactful up to a point. There's diminishing returns there because they're a bit more focused on B2B and we're more B2C. But also we do a lot of retargeting. So we don't have you know, kind of like a hard login on most of our sites and stores, but we got tons of visitors that you know, come in there and they browse and add products to their cart. If you retarget those, once they end up coming back, that also adds the subscription. So you get 2 in 1. You get the subscription, you also get the purchaser. So that's kind of like the ways. It's not so much anymore just the organic post. That said, we do send from, for example, we have let's call it a music link distribution partner, meaning, you know, if you have a Facebook page and you have one link you can put, hey, listen to my music. But people listen to music in different ways. Apple Music, Deezer, Spotify, and 100 other, they want to buy direct on the store, they want to, SoundCloud, whatever, YouTube. So we have basically a distribution partner where you put one link in Facebook, but then that goes to a landing page with a bunch of options. And hey, how do you want to listen to music? That page also collects data. That page also does retargeting. So basically, we're using Facebook not in the traditional way, but like sending to these other channels now that enable us to, where we can control and collect that information, pixels or emails. or
But you
mobile.
also have the artists have their Facebook pages
Yeah,
as well.
that's
And
most
that's
of
a
this is
really
through the artist
important
pages.
source here, right?
Yeah, I mean, most of this is through the artist pages. So we syndicate all of this, and our marketers manage those pages with all the tools that are available.
And they become, but Facebook, these artist pages have become a particularly important source for email conversions, right?
Through these programs that I just mentioned, indeed. Yeah.
What unique data points are you getting from this channel?
I think it's mostly the same. So if they go to the link page, you know, we're getting the consumption data, we're getting retargeting data based on that. If they're going to the bots, it's whatever questions we ask. If it's a lead ad, then it's whatever fields we add, which is the fields that are most important for us, whether it's a birthday, location, name, etc.
So let's round it up and moving into mobile and SMS.
Yeah.
How are you? Tell us first of all, how are you using SMS?
Well, one more point on the pages. We also drive to a lot of pre-saves now. So and other acquisition sources. So sweepstakes that would go into other pages where you actually can log in through, for example, Spotify or Apple Music. And it could be sweepstakes where you're signed up to the list, but you're also following the artist on Spotify or following a playlist of sorts, or pre-saving a track so that it drops into your library when it's launched. This is useful for us because one of our biggest goals is, of course, driving streaming in the new music industry world. And so it's both a subscription as well as a follow to the artist profile in Spotify. And then from there on, that's a whole set of data points.
Well, are you able then to observe some of the, and how much insight do you have into the behaviors, say, on these channels that then can feed back into your one-to-one communications with them?
So music is mostly a third-party attribution world. You know, our ticketing is a different, we produce the music, we're content and brand owners, but we drive to streaming, to downloads in the past, to video, to tickets, where we don't really have attribution channels. It's being worked on. When someone does this pre-saves through a platform like Spotify, a streaming platform, there are a certain level of permissions, right? So based on how they opt in, there is a certain of insight that we can see into listening preference, and which is obviously immensely useful because we want to produce and communicate as relevant as possible to them. So if they provide that permission, it means they want to get that value back from us, and so we make an effort to keep it and use it.
Okay. So now,
back to SMS.
Yeah, let's move on to SMS. Tell us how do you use that channel, and how is it different from some of these others?
SMS is, it's almost like making a comeback, I'd say. A lot of our artists are interested. We put our apps, our SMS apps into the artist's hands. They want to be personal with it. The acquisition is bidirectional, right? So you can acquire from SMS into email and into SMS, of course, and you can acquire in the ports of email acquisition, you can also acquire mobile numbers with the right permissions that then flow into the SMS platform. And you could then segment, just like you segment email, based on, we have those integrations, you can segment based on location, purchaser data, CRM data, which is very useful. This is not what SMS used to be. And it's personal. There's dashboards where you could see what people say, and if you can respond to a certain group, there's automation. So all the lifecycle marketing you're doing in email, you can do in SMS now. So those are the things we're definitely seeing more and more artists growing into that space, wanting to have a direct connection with their fans in that way, or our marketing team handles that. But it's a growing channel for us for acquisition. By the way, for email, but also for a completely new channel, which is the SMS world.
What does that experience look like on the fan end? So they follow an artist.
Yeah,
they give them their mobile number. What does it look like? Does it look a lot like this?
Very similar to this. Sometimes instead of conversational, it could be like a landing page which has like a 90% conversion rate, where you enter more information. And from then on, it looks very similar. You can send creatives, you can send text, people can text back, you know, and SMS does have some ways to understand what people text back and then group that into some insights, which we're working on. Yeah, and then, you know, whether it's push messaging for offers or content, et cetera, very, very similar to this experience.
So you've got a huge range of artists representing a vast number of demographic groups. You have all of these channels. You've got mobile. You've got Facebook. You've got Messenger bots. What patterns, if at all, are you seeing among which channels people prefer, and what types of communications go into these different channels?
Well, so that really depends how deep you go with the product you own and the channels you have, right? we work very broad because there's so many brands and marketers have to oversee many brands. So it's as much as they can. The bottom line is we want to be where people are. You know, if people are more comfortable communicating through Messenger or through SMS or through email, we want to be there. We want to give them the option to be on all 3, on all 5, or on all 10, or on just a few, or on just the ones they want. The content does vary. You know, SMS is a bit more like Twitter in a way. You know, the way you serve content, the way you talk to fans. Whereas the bot has all these automations, and email is email curation. So I mean, where you could you know, I'd say it's you have email automation where that could look like the SMS flow or the bot flow, but the content does differ, just like you know, any marketing channel that you have to curate.
Well, I get the point of my question is it as we get to having the capability of having these multiple channels of person-to-person marketing, does it come down to it being a highly idiosyncratic matter in terms of what people prefer and why they prefer it? Or do some patterns emerge in terms of certain demographics are behaving in certain ways, certain artists and followers are behaving in certain ways, or is it truly a universe where we will simply each individual is making a very idiosyncratic decision about how they want to be communicated with?
Well, we're definitely seeing different demographics and different genres in music using different channels. If it's more email, if it's more mobile, absolutely. Like, you can see that. And
some examples. What comes
you know, so urban would probably be a bit more SMS focused, whereas classic rock would probably be more email focused. There is a huge overlap with all of them, but we're definitely seeing artists and from different genres and those audiences talking through these different channels. That said, because we try to have multiple channels for an artist, there is some sort of a content library or a playbook, let's say, of what point in an artist's career and in an artist's cycle we send through each channel. So best practices based on engagement, based on performance and impact. Whether it's, you know, a tour announce, a single release, a single pre-save, merch, new merch. And we basically build playbooks. That's our campaign strategy team. So that you don't blast out everything through all the channels over time, and it's based on the frequency, the impact of the content, and the type of audience on each channel, for sure.
So let's talk about some examples. We've got all of these inputs, all of these channels. Give us some examples of or tell us about the levels of personalization that are coming out at the other end for the user, the ones that are working for them, and the ones that you've developed from all of this data and all of these channels.
Yeah, I mean, so SMS is pretty good and local too, similar like email. You know, if an artist is coming to town and they're saying, "Hey, guys, I have a show," you know, actually a lot of artists use the SMS as some sort of exclusive, and celebrities too as an exclusive. Like, this is what used to be fan club. This is now in the SMS. This is my close list, by exclusively my VIPs, and so they get exclusive content, they get access to secret shows and things like that, things that we used to have in email fan clubs or membership fan clubs as well. You know, local, obviously, in email there's tons of personalization we can do, whether it's through the abandoned carts, whether it's what we've seen that you've purchased, how you consume music, what genre you like, and catering dynamic elements, whether it's dynamic things that we know about you so that you see we know you, or whether it's just content modules that changed accordingly. You know, we have the concert alerts program that might be on a different presentation, and that uses email. So it's in an SMS you can segment locally, and an artist would directly, like, that would sell out in seconds. An exclusive offer through SMS would sell out in seconds. On Facebook, we would run ads to the Facebook followers that would, with promotion offers that would convert actually pretty well, more than we think, more than organic posts and more than organic ads. So the ads to Facebook followers with e-commerce offers are much more efficient than ads on your newsfeed, for example. In email, you know, if we go by the content alerts and integration, concert alerts and integrations we have there, based on locale, you know, we have tens of thousands of concerts for our thousands of artists. So we have this automation program we built where it identifies, let's say Skillet is coming to New York, it identifies, okay, in 10 days Skillet is in New York, builds an email from our Songkick, which is also a Warner Music company, our Songkick concert listing, email is built automatically. It then segments automatically the people 100-mile radius around New York, and then sends that email to that audience, and it does that across 40 dates. You can imagine 40 dates average for each artist times 1,000 artists. That's a lot of email bills. So through this automation program that identifies concerts, segments, and sends automatically, there's even a small QA approval process there, which is automated. We could scale the reach for our fans and artists, and we save on production hours. And we also provide value proposition, because that's really a lot of when fans sign up, they want to know when the artist is coming to town. So, you know, that's been done through email. And the same, what's cool is the same type of segmentation.
We talked about this before. That's been enormously successful,
that
program. I mean, using geo is still, I think, one of the undervalued targeting parameters. That when you're hitting people literally where they live, that matters to them. It resonates in a special way.
Yeah, I mean, you see the value. It clearly is value. It's more specific to them. You see it in the open rates and click-through rates. They're more engaged afterwards because they see that you know them. You know, and even automations like Movable Link and Live Clicker, they also use locale in a different way based on IP or whatever, because then they show you the different weather based on the weather in your location. So all of these have to do, it's not a direct local attribute, but it does have an impact. Yeah, and if you can automate it, that's what matters, because then you don't have to sit there and create segments based on locations and markets.
So before we get to the last question about how and when the wheels fall off of something like this, let's pop the hood and talk about internally, how have you reorganized in terms of your data and your technology so that all of these pieces actually can talk to each other in a way so that the user gets that unified, personalized experience?
Absolutely. So, well, first of all, we've restructured our team a bit so that it's a team of product owners across data, APIs, which is the most critical piece of this, email and automation, web, mobile and social. And so each of those streams has a bunch of platforms and owners that could sit and maintain the day-to-day, as well as think about what's the roadmap and how do we activate and maximize this channel. Now, a big piece is our centralized, standardized API set, because all the different channels across with the grid of all the different artists all go through one point. And the data gets normalized, it gets standardized, it goes to the data warehouse, so that we know what we're looking at. There's a syntax of what's the data source, who's this person, what are the different fields. And you know, without this normalized standard API set, we wouldn't know what data we're looking at. Because we have that allows for all these integration points. It's a Warner API, so all these channels, we actually connect to that same API. The data comes into the data warehouse where we know how it came in, with the same normalization of fields, and then it trickles down to Marketing Cloud and other communication channels. In Marketing Cloud now, we have to enable the access to this information, which is a challenge people were talking about here for sure. Because, okay, you got all this data now from all these different channels. Okay, you organize it and maintain it, which is a challenge in itself, especially for a marketing team without IT, which we can talk about, but then how do users use this? How do they know, oh, there's a new channel now? How do we, you know, there's product marketing. Marketers have to know, oh, we have this new channel. Do we activate it through the Marketing Cloud? Do we activate it directly? In the Marketing Cloud, for example, we have to structure the data in a way that it's accessible. So what we've done is we moved to a model where we could, in a flexible way, keep adding, let's call it data tables of new sources that join on an ID or an email list, so that for a user goes in and wants to set a communication or segment based on a new source, it's all in the interface for them. And so we built this, what we call a new subscription model, where we join a bunch of data tables from all these different sources, and it's flexible, so you can keep adding them as the world, you know, progresses and we get more of these. And it's now accessible to users in the drag and drop interface, where this wasn't available for them before.
Built in, how much of this was built in-house, and how much does this, by doing something this sophisticated where you have to have a consistent set of APIs that can talk to each other in this way, does that sort of force you to really do most of this in-house and limit your ability to work with third-party vendors?
So it's a combination. It's a combination. Our data warehouse is in-house, although today's technologies, you know, some companies were talking about it here too, actually today there's other third-party companies that allow us to do a lot of this in-house things. So our API set is in-house and our data warehouse is in-house, but our communication channels are our partners, you know, whether it's Salesforce, Adobe, et cetera, and some others. So it's been useful because, you know, Frank, everybody here knows this, there's limitations to all these platforms we use because each company has its own context. by having your in-house platform and API set and database engineers, you can overcome a lot of these limitations. All the data comes in, gets standardized into data warehouse. From here, it gets routed to the different places in Marketing Cloud so that it's structured the way we need it to. These are things that are sometimes hard to do. While those other platforms are robust, they don't always match what you need. So having an in-house platform you control could help bypass a lot of these limitations, but it also means you got to maintain it, you got to have the right resources, which is a challenge on itself. I think these days, there's some companies that are emerging that are able to handle some of that, of what companies have done traditionally in-house.
How are you overcoming the attribution issue with these third-party streamers that are giving you limited visibility into what impact you're actually having on the user? If a lot of the aim here is to drive streaming.
Well, so we have a playlist brand that we can track the marketing to. We have a research and analytics team that builds advanced models for this type of stuff. It's definitely an ongoing challenge, and in talking to your partners and understanding how you can collaborate, because at the end of the day, it's in everyone's benefits. It's in our benefit, in the partners' benefit, in the fans' benefit, that we understand what effective marketing is for these platforms.
Before I ask my rap questions, because I can see my boss is standing over there telling me to get off the stage. Any questions for Itay? Back here?
Hi, Chuck from Webula. I'm engaging across all these channels, bots and whatever, and you time you back to one thing to go back into your data warehouse. Is there a unique identifier, and is it called email, or is there something else that you're tying me back to be me?
We have a different unique identifier because we also have advertising technology that needs to use this stuff, but so far, email has been pretty effective for what we need. It's not the only identifier we have, but it's been the most effective way to join this data so far. That will probably change soon.
Is there one back here?
Greg from Launch Potato. So regarding Facebook's fun change coming out in January, where they're no longer going to let you message after 24 hours unless you pay for it, how does that change your strategy for using bots?
Yeah, so that's exactly why we're gonna basically create this blanket where people that engage with the bot automatically gets into this acquisition stream. So that way they're a follower, and then if we want, we need to reach them. But if not, as much as we can, put the email acquisition piece up the funnel. So we have them there, and then they get joined into the various lists.
What's been the greatest point of failure in building this?
I mean, well, so taking marketing technology in-house into the marketing team, it's tough because you're not, as research said, there's a lot of education that needs to come into play in terms of how you manage these platforms on the day-to-day. 1,500 email lists and a lot more segments and automations that are running off of that. Compliance, data syncs with our business intelligence platforms, with our DMP, et cetera. So these have been issues that we've been struggling. I think over time we've built an ecosystem with the resources, investment, and what we knew at the time. But it progresses immensely. So today, if we were to build it, we would probably build it a bit differently. That's one thing. The other thing is, a bit humility. When we bring in all these new channels, context, understanding how they work. If there's a team that was involved with them, listen to what they have to say, because if you make assumptions, you may miss really important things on what's available and how things work. And when you want to connect things, you want to know the context. And the last thing is just user feedback. Like, product management is all about user feedback and needs, connected with business goals and requirements, and translate that to tangible results. So you really have to be attentive to your users and your consumers, see how that resonates with your business goals, and then how do those come in play when you have to actually build technology solutions.
Itay, you're always one of our favorites. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Itay, you can engage Itay in the roundtable. He's going to be talking about some of these alternative channels of customer acquisition. Thanks, Itay.
Thanks, everyone.